Today in the art of making. How to make an oriental delicacy, halva. What is kookor? What ingredients are used? What are the ingredients of Guba baklava and why only men cook it? Halva is an oriental delicacy familiar to all since childhood. The first time halva was made in Iran in the 5th century BC, and so far in many Eastern countries, this dish is prepared only by confectioners of special qualification. Halva is a sweet confection made from roasted crushed oil seeds or nuts by mixing with a caramel mass, knocked down with a foaming substance, which causes a layered fibrous structure of halva. The jeweler is a master engaged in the manufacturing and repairment of jewelry. As a rule, jewelers work with precious metals, but some are engaged in semi-precious jewelry. This work is quite complex, but interesting and creative. Artyom has hundreds of works under his belt. All of them have their own history and meaning. His love for fantasy literature led him to this work. In the story, the master will tell us and show us how the national decoration of the Kyrgyz people, the kookor, is made. A little bit of history. Kookor is a leather flask, a Kyrgyz household item. During the migrations, the flask of the man was attached to the saddle. It was believed that kumis acquired a special taste from agitation when riding. Kookor was decorated with rich embossing, in the design of which the motif of ram's horn prevailed, since among the nomads of Central Asia it is a powerful guardian and a capacious symbol of vital energy. Today, kookor is popular among tourists. It is made of leather, felt, and copper. Now we will tell you how to make jewelry from copper.
Вначале мы берем проволоку, очищенную.
First we take the wire, cleaned. This diameter is 1.75. It is usually extracted from electric wires. There is a special wire for weaving, but it's often coated with varnishes. It is difficult to work with it. It cannot be patinated, polished, or laminated. After we took the wire, we are already starting to work with a sketch. We bend according to the pattern that we have. This method is called wire work. The wire weaving technique is not too difficult or incomprehensible. The main goal is the ability to assemble light and open work construction from wire various thickness. By the way, absolutely any wire can be used, from steel to silver wire. The only requirement is that it should be flexible enough but have a margin of safety in order to withstand the effects of various stresses when wearing ready-to-wear jewelry.
Это изображение вы можете видеть на сомах кыргызских.
This image you can see on Kyrgyz som. Kookor is a vessel for kumis, and inside it there is another pattern. It is tumar, a Kyrgyz amulet that protects its owner. Actually, this decoration is what we are doing now. You see, we bit the wire according to the pattern. After the main part is ready, you can make a tumar. I'll take the wire again. These are side cutters, special jewelry cutters, because ordinary side cutters are two-sided. There is a notch on the side, and it is on both sides, so it's difficult to obtain an even cut. And this jewel tool has a smooth chasm, and it leaves an even cut. It is very important in the process of creating jewelry.
Вот эта фаска гладкая, и она оставляет ровный срез. Это очень важно в процессе создания украшений.
If you use the wrong tools, then later the finished jewelry will cause discomfort when wearing, scratching the skin, clinging to the clothes. An important role is played by flat pliers.
Они абсолютно гладкие. Это сделано для того, чтобы насечка не травмировала проволоку и не оставляла.
They're absolutely smooth. This is done so that the wire does not get hurt and there are no traces left. This is important because otherwise, after manufacturing the product, we still have to additionally deal with the processing of all irregularities and roughness. Here in the process, you will need to attach in this way and see how these details match. Almost all the time, it will be necessary to check the ratio of one part to another. Because if it's broken, then it won't be possible to assemble the decoration itself.
Потому что если оно нарушится, то впоследствии не получится собрать само украшение.
The aspect ratio is the most important. Periodically, you should try on the details. It should be remembered that there should be a small distance between them for pulling the wire, which will fasten our product.
Теперь мы будем пользоваться.
Now we need round pliers. This is also a special tool designed to create all sorts of spirals, curlicues, monograms on the wire itself. Well, we will use it here to make the inner pattern in the tumar.
Сделать внутренний узор в тумаре.
Then again, take the copper wire only with a diameter of 0.3. It's quite thin. It's usually used for small weaving. In the process, it's very important to ensure that there are no loops on the material. If they suddenly arise, they should be gently straightened, but not in any way they should be tied in a knot.
Итак, мы берем нашу заготовку, пропускаем здесь.
So we take our stocking, we skip the wire heel, holding it with our fingers and begin to connect two parts. Here you need to ensure that each new round of wire lay next to another and not one to another, because ultimately it will look more neat and the product will have an attractive appearance.
И изделие будет иметь привлекательный внешний вид.
Such actions resemble sewing, only metal wire instead of thread, but the principle remains the same. We connect it, everything is quite strong and neat. Now we need to fix a stone here. For this purpose, I will use the Labrador. If you look at the stone more closely, sometimes solar sparks flash on it. To fix the stone, we use another wire. It is also copper, with a diameter 0.5. We skip the wire from two sides into the ears of the tamar.
Это тоже медь, но здесь диаметр 0,5. Пропускаем проволоку с двух сторон в ушки тамара.
After all the details are firmly fixed among themselves, the stone has taken its place. The master goes to the top of the decoration, namely to the neck of our vessel.
Теперь мы произведем новое плетение.
Now we will produce a new weave, which is different from those we did before. We skip the wire between the two main bases and make an 8 form. A thin wire twists around a thick one. It turns out looking as number 8. And then we make 3 large turns which capture both wires simultaneously, and again we make the 8.
Захватывают обе проволоки одновременно. И снова восьмерку.
Repeating these manipulations, we achieve the creation of an interesting pattern. The only condition for its creation is to be tightened all the time, because it's quite dense, and if this is not done, it can stop at any element and not go further. Toward the end, take a thick nail or similar object.
Мы помещаем его вот так и обкручиваем проволокой с двух сторон.
We put it like this and twist it on both sides. The diameter of such a ring depends on the diameter of the stone, which we will install at the top of the kookor. The work is very painstaking and requires perseverance. As the master says, one of the important moments is strong hands, in particular fingers, since in such work it is periodically necessary to do the bends with your fingers. Well, after a while, our decoration is ready. Wire work is not an innovation. This subsection, rather even jewelry craftsmanship, already successfully existed in medieval Europe, as well as in more Asian cities. At the time, the wire from special alloys of silver and copper was a necessary assistant of the jeweler and allowed to create the most amazing things. Azerbaijani cuisine is considered one of the most ancient and delicious in the East. Formed for centuries, it is rich not only in various kinds of dishes, but also in sweets. One of the most popular is baklava. It has several types: Baku, Sheki, Ganja, Guba. All of them are called after the region where they originated. The cooks of each region prepare it in their own way, and each of them has its own unique taste. Today we will talk about how the Guba baklava is prepared, which is cooked in the city of Guba, in the north of Azerbaijan, and is cooked exclusively by men. Master Mehmet Talibov, who has been engaged in this business for 15 years, will tell us why. To bake Guba baklava, we knead the dough. Its composition consists only of flour and water. This process is time-consuming and complex. First, the dough is thick, then we bring it into a liquid state. After about 15 minutes of mixing, we obtain the required state. Then proceed to the preparation of layers of baklava. They are called rishte. What I hold in my hands is the bottom layer of baklava. It is slightly thicker than the upper layers. This way the layers overlap each other. It is important that the vessel where the baklava is baked and the frying pan where it is placed are made of copper. At the first stage, before we put the walnut, 25 layers are put in a copper pan. And so in parts we collect it. It is necessary that the edges were smooth. Because then we will scatter all those nuts. Because you need to carefully assemble them all together. And then when we cut them into pieces, they can be uneven. Each sheet requires 1 kilogram, 200 grams of walnuts. This way we distribute ground nuts evenly. After that, we repeat the same process again. We add another 25 layers to meet the required height. Finally, we put the top layer. Of course, it should be a little thicker. In fact, the technology of sheki and Guba baklava is the same. Sheki is called halva. They are not cut into pieces, served as a whole, but the ingredients that are put inside are different. Sheki uses different spices. In the Guba baklava, no impurities are used. There is no butter, milk, or eggs. Just flour, water, walnut, and thick syrup from sugar. Therefore, Guba baklava is light and airy. Now we cut baklava. After we will paint it with natural dyes. Yes, please, Aksakal. Hello. Is bukme fresh? Yes, it is fresh. May I have 5? Sure. My son's friends from army came to visit. I wanted them to try it. Yes, that's a good idea. I will wrap them up for you. Here you go. The surface is a little dry. It happens when the weather is hot. To give it an aesthetic look, we decorate it with nuts. Baking baklava is work not intended for women. See how hard it is. To knead the dough, stand by the hot stove, several stages of preparation. This is not a matter of a single day. All this is repeated every day. In the summer, there is even more work. A lot of tourists come. The city has a lot of guests. Therefore, you have to cook 4 or 5 baklavas. Today I prepared only 2, one by request. We will sell another one here. It is cooked in an open fire. We close the dome for it to slowly bake. Baklava can be stored in a cool place or in the refrigerator for about 7 to 10 days. At a room temperature, it is stored no more than 1 or 2 days. Good baklava should not be sugared. However, if something is not properly cooked, it affects the quality of the finished baklava. For example, if citric acid is added to the syrup, it greatly influences the taste. It is impossible to eat such baklava. As you can see, baklava is ready in about 20-25 minutes. Primary condition is dry. We extinguish the fire. Now we process the syrup. To get the solution, we use 8 kilograms of granulated sugar. You see how it is heated in the edges of the pan. We are waiting for about 10-15 minutes for the syrup to fully absorb. Then we add the syrup for the second time. Baklava is ready.